What's up, guys, and welcome to the How to Fire Mage, the Fallen Protector's Guide. Again, I'm going to cover normal, heroic modes, cover the differences between them and which talents and glyphs you can take to really optimize your performance, not only for raid utility, but also for your DPS as well. The biggest thing for this is the talents. Let's go over those real quick. Talent-wise, Cold Snap is really key for this. Why? Because in heroic mode, the Mark of Anguish, we can literally take that and ice block it and hold it for quite a long time. And then obviously as soon as we get out, we can just pass it to the next guy and we're good to go. So mages are exceptional for this. Mages and rogues and even hunters are very good at this, but mainly mages can completely negate this effect. We've had the same problem when we were in Council of Elders. We could actually negate the Twisted Fate ability as well on heroic. We could do that the same thing with ice blocks, so think of the same idea there. So because of that reason, we want Cold Snap, because at 66 and 33%, we want to be able to take that. So as soon as you're done, make sure you're popping your Cold Snap to get your ice block back on cooldown, so that way you can use it next time Mark of Anguish comes out. Whoever gets it, just pass it to you, you ice block, and you can negate that entire pretty much phase as long as you have more than one mage. Secondly, Inferno Blast, dot-wise, we want Nether Tempest, right? So Nether Tempest is going to be key for this. Why? Because we have 3 or more targets. They're not always together, and especially when, when Rook goes under and becomes empowered and we get those 3 adds, we can dot all 3 of them up because they do share damage. So making sure that we understand how that works and making sure that we're just dotting everything possible, it does an absolute ton of DPS, and it really gets those adds down quick. Not to mention keeping dots rolling is essentially important, especially for mages, because it keeps everything up for us. So that's really the 2 main ones. Again, I use Temporal Shield for this fight. There are some people who use Ice Barrier. It just really depends on you and how aggressively you want to spec, but that controversy is really mute on this fight. There's not a whole lot of scenarios where one is going to be extremely better than the other, at least in Fallen Protectors, on normal or heroic. The other things that we want to understand is glyphs. So obviously we want our combustion glyph. We want Inferno Blast so that we can spread our combustions, we can spread all our dots, we can spread everything to whoever we need to spread it to, as long as they're stacked up. Because again, this fight, if you're just progressing on it, is a DPS check. You need to be able to really pump out a ton of damage, and especially at the end, from the 33% and down phase, being able to spread damage evenly and burst damage evenly is huge. So that Glyph of Inferno Blast comes into play very well there. As far as your third glyph of choice, you do have a couple options here. I prefer Double Blink because there's not really a stun effect. When Rook does his spinning crane kick, again, you can blink out. If you are... if you have Inferno Strike and you need to get to wherever your group is stacking for that, you can blink in and then blink back out. I prefer Glyph of Double Blink for this fight. However, there are some people who like armors just to help out healers. There are some people who like Arcane Explosion. However, I find that a bit suboptimal. The only time you would really use that is when you're stacked in the bubble. And all those little adds are in the middle. But again, that's not your job to kill those little adds. That's Melee's job. So again, you're pretty much scumbagging at that point. So I would watch out for that one. So pretty much your choices are going to be armor, or they're going to be Double Blink. And again, I tend to lean toward Double Blink just because having that extra movement, that extra blink when you really need it, can be extremely important. Like I said, Inferno Strikes, Mark of Anguish to get into the area before you stack so that the adds don't go out. Getting out of the spinning crane kick. There's a lot of scenarios where having that Double Blink can be very beneficial to you and your raid group. So I would recommend going that way. But as far as the fight goes, a quick breakdown of how we want to do everything on this fight for fire. Again, right off the pull, normally we're popping Lust right on the pull, right? So we're trying to get that big ignite, that big combustion, and then Inferno Blast it to everybody else. That way everything's kind of coming down, but we want to be focusing on Rook. Okay, understanding how your critical mass debuff works. We want to be making sure that we're putting that up on all our targets because it's a long dot and it ticks really hard. Especially with Heroism up, you get a lot of nice ticks out of that. So make sure that you're dotting all of the targets, that you're Inferno Blasting and Pyro Blasting onto the other targets as it comes up to try to keep that critical mass debuff, and then stay on your main target. So you're cleaving off of your main target, whoever that may be, depending on the percentage of the fight. Again, Mark of Anguish, we can completely immune that ability for our entire raid group. We're a great utility class for that fight. So keep that in mind as well. But then when they come back, rinse and repeat. Remember, when you're in the bubble, we're killing the outside adds. So you can actually dot up the 2 bosses and the two Desperate Measure adds, the adds that are outside. You can dot both of them up and critical mass both of them as well while targeting them down. So that's always a nice way to do that. If your groups aren't split up by your raid leader, make sure that you're doing even damage to both of those adds, that they're coming down at the same time. As far as those are really the 3 empowerment phases, and other than that, you're pretty much just burning. So the best time to be using combustion here is when you can get the most adds out of it. Obviously at the pull, when everything's procced, you want to do it there. And then, you know, the next best time to use it kind of depends on how fast your raid's killing it. But a lot of times, you know, when that Mark of Anguish comes up, if I'm the second mage on the list, typically my combustion's up by then. I try to combust onto that anguish and then spread it to the other bosses. That way, while I'm in ice block, I'm still getting that anguish down, because remember, the quicker we can get that anguish down, the quicker that debuff falls off and the more damage we can do, because we don't have to sit in ice block the whole time. So that's kind of where I would go that way. But other than that, guys, it's just, you know, make sure that you're keeping Nether Tempest up, critical mass up, and really slamming damage off of your main target that you're supposed to be killing. And you guys are going to see some great numbers on this fight. This fight is awesome for mages. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and as always, see you in the next one.